Hey Jackal! In today's video, we'll do something different than usual. We'll be taking a look at Blender and how you can export an image sequence, or rather how you can use image sequence, or not a sequence, but a bunch of images, how to put those images on an object like this one. It will just be a flat face, and how you can render this object out with individual images, so you don't have to do it manually. So what exactly am I talking about? Well, if we take a look at this folder, just focus on the names. So we basically have something like IDs or codes, and usually what an image sequence is a sequence of numbers that follow one another and they increase by 1. So this is true in this case, but it fails on the next step because this number does not increase by 1, it is totally different. So this would be one image sequence. Then we have, let's say, this would be a second image sequence. The third image sequence, this image is standalone, it does not have one number before it. This one would also be standalone, and so on and so on. So basically what you want to do is take a bunch of images that you want to put on one item. So in this case I have 75 images, which is a lot, and you don't want to do this manually for each image. So an image sequence is what you want. Now what I have done is written, well, not me, I've simply asked the AI, so ChatGPT, how to turn these values into something that I can actually use in an image sequence. The script uses Python. Now at the moment I don't have it installed, but what this script does is it makes a folder called asset names, if it does not exist, that is, and then it checks the current folder where the script is located, so this one, and it goes over all of the files that contain either one of these extensions, so basically an image file, so it will not go over the script file itself or anything else that is not an image. It will preserve the extension, so if it is a JPEG, it will be a JPEG. And then in the created asset names, it will make an asset with the value of starting from 000 dot the extension that we had originally. So this would be a PNG. Now I don't have Python installed, so I can't show you this on this PC, but I can show you on a different PC with this script, which does something similar. It just takes the asset names and converts them back to these image names. So first, to put an image onto an object, what I'll do is, so what I have done is simply I made a plane, so mesh, plane, rotate it, so R90 on x-axis, G and Y to put it forward, and then we'll simply position it how we want. But what I do want is to make a material, so click new, just like so, make a new window and go into the shader editor. Inside here you'll want to use Shift-A, search image sequence, and then search for the image sequence that you want to use, and I will input all of the images that I have inside the labels folder. Now ideally you will have images that are transparent, like the ones I have here, so a bunch of them, all of them transparent. Simply click on the first image, go to the last one, hold Shift and click on the last image and import the image sequence. Now, as you can see, here I have 75 frames. Let me zoom in. So I have 75 frames. We will start at frame 1. The offset, this should be 0, I think. You want to check the auto refresh. So when you scroll over down here, you will see the images change. And you want to start at frame 1. You want to start at frame 0. And I will show you why in a bit. But you may notice something at the top. We don't actually have the image name. This should now be an image sequence. But the sequence will also fail because the images don't follow each other and increase the value by 1. Now this should work out of the box. So connect the color to base color and the alpha to alpha. Now we get this magenta purple. That is because the start frame is at 1. You have to lower this to 0. At least that should be the fix. And go to 0 here as well. Why do we not see anything? Well, it could be because of this value, but we'll see in a bit because this is not the end of the composition. So Shift A. This time we need let's see, color ramp. This is one thing. I'll just use it as is, default values, and another Shift A. And this time we need mix color. So I'll simply connect them like so. And the result will go now to the base color. What you may need to change though is not use the repeat option, but maybe extend or clip. But before I do, maybe let me just use one image so we can actually see it and know that it works. This image, as you can see, it is stretched out. Ideally, you will have some specification or at least eyeball what the dimensions should be. So you can go into the, into the item and change the dimensions. So you can do this, move it around. You can also go at the top. So it snaps, go to face, select the plane, use G, and if you want you can snap it on the Y axis, so the green, so press Y, this will snap it. Then just move it on the X axis and G and Z to move it on the Z axis. In this case, I think the image has a good ratio, but it has to be a little smaller so it doesn't go over or below. So S to scale. And now we have to put it a little bit outward so we don't get this artifacting. So we can do this using the location value and we'll simply move it on the Y axis. So let's see if I go to 5. And that's good enough. So at the moment, what we have is a black background, which is not what we want. Maybe what I can also do is go to the cube and simply change the material color to something else so we can actually see what we have. So the goal is to get the background transparent, and we still have some issue depending on the view that you choose. If you press 0, this will go to the camera view. It looks like so. If you would have to move this around, then maybe you would also have to make some adjustments to the distance between the plane and the object. So now we can change the mode from maybe the clip to extend if it makes any difference. In this case, it does not. The factor does make some difference, but usually you won't be touching this. So let's see what could be the issue. Did I forget some option? So this is usually done in cycles. So let's go over to cycles. And yeah, that fixed the issue. And now we can take a look what this actually does. So if you change the factor in this area, it affects it like so. You don't need to do that. You can move this black over like so. But if you have multiple colors, you should also check what that does to other colors. So what I have done is simply left it as is. And I have increased roughness. Though I believe I also changed the color of this one to black. Now let me just import the images again as an image sequence. So this is now an image sequence. So this is what you'll get if the frame starts at 1. So it should start at 0. Specify how many frames you have. So 75 in total. If you want to render this out as a whole image sequence, you will go from 0 down here to 74 in this case. 0 counts as 1, so 1 plus 74 is 75 frames in total. So this is correct. And because you have the auto refresh enabled, you can now scrub through and you should see the images change. And they do. At least if you look at this big number, it will change. But it stops because this image is now not a part of the image sequence, and that has to do with the names. So that is why you need the image names to be in order. Now it doesn't just have to be a number, it can be something like an asset and then a number at the end. So in this case, at most I could go to image sequence number 4, but I can also go to, let's see, the image sequence down here. It starts with this one. So in total we have 14 items, and I can then go to, let's say, I think it's frame 61, and from frame 61 I have an image sequence. At least I should have an image sequence. Oh yeah, it would work. So if you had to make some adjustments, like maybe you just need to render out this part of the whole image sequence, so you don't have to render everything. Again, they do have to follow the naming scheme, because they don't. Even though I set the start frame to 61, I basically see the initial values as they were on frame 0. Let me just see if I make an offset with this value. I think this was basically the image ID, and it was. So you can also offset the images like so. So now we have the green images. Now to render this out, what you would then do is first set the resolution of the camera. So in this case it could be the same, maybe let's go with 1024, which is basically 1K. We can maybe zoom in a little bit with the camera so it's closer to the action. We don't need to set the start frame and end here. We can do so also at this point. So either one, as you can see. Then we have the path. You do want to set the path where you want this to be output. So in this case, maybe I'll make a new folder, double click and accept. And if you have multiple cameras, go to the scene and select the camera that you actually want to render out. Also, it's quite late and I just saw that I missed a setting, and that is the device. You want to render this with your GPU, not the CPU. Especially if you want to have this done in, well, in this case, less than a second. Whereas previously, the CPU took 10 seconds. And once everything is done, you can press Ctrl and F12, and then this will automatically render out the whole image sequence specified by the start and end, and put it into the folder that you specified. And also make sure that you limit the samples, so let's cancel that. I don't want this many samples, let's go just with 100 samples. And I also don't need to denoise, this is just an example, so let's go with these options. I'm using an NVIDIA RTX 3080 at the moment, and to be honest, this is going quite slow. So I could also lower the samples or make some other adjustments as well. How many images do we have? So frame 3. I think this is good enough, just for the example. So this is now my output, and as you can see, these are the image names. They go in the order that you've specified. So basically, on a frame by frame basis. So you could go from 0 to 9999. And why is also that important? Well, if you want to get these names back to the original, well, then you also need to have some kind of a script. This is another one that ChatGPT made for me. Again, it is Python, and I don't have Python installed on this PC, so I can't use it. But basically what it does is when you run it, and I think I can show you this, I did make a recording. So you launch it, you specify the source folder. So this is the folder where you have the original images with the actual file names. And then you specify the folder where you have just rendered out all of the images that go from 0000 to the last frame. And all of those images will get renamed one by one in the same order as you have previously had the original images. Now, who would actually want to use something like this? I think anyone that has an online shop with a bunch of images, especially repeating ones, like these ones. Just so you know, this is a sample, it's on a flat surface. You can do something similar on a curved surface. It does take a little bit of tweaking, but it's a lot easier to automate this than making the adjustment and images one by one. Now, if you found this video helpful, do subscribe to the channel, especially if you want to see more Blender content. I will make more of it, as I think you will find it useful.